guests have hotels and lodging covered at the world's largest OTA. With over 20 years of Expedia experience between them, please welcome Cyril Ranque, President of Lodging Partner Services, and Johan Svanström, President of Hotels.com and Expedia Affiliate Network at Expedia Inc. Gentlemen, yeah, let's just sit over there.
There.
Somebody wants to sit next to me? Come on. This way they can see your shoes.
Why does he get to sit next to you?
Because I have the shoes.
He was first. Okay, gentlemen. So 2 Europeans who started at Expedia over 10 years ago, 11 years ago or so in Asia. How did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah, the banana peels of life, I guess. It was 12 years ago, and we were out there at the same time, which was fantastic. We were both based in Hong Kong.
Is that how you met?
Yeah, absolutely. In our super duper tiny office at the time. When I came out to Asia, we had like a handful of people, maybe a few hundred hotels in the region.
We had 900
contracted.
hotels.
900?
900 hotels. My whole supply team was fitting in a small conference room. And now we've got 75,000 and 500 people in the team over 40 offices. So it's been quite a journey, yeah.
Big journey.
What was it like at the time? Like, what was the market like at the time? It was just...
Strangely enough, it was kind of similar. The players that are there today were already making big strides. You know, C-Trip, Make My Trip, Rakuten. Now we bought one. We bought What If along the way, Agoda. But the same players have grown. So it's still highly competitive, fast-paced, fast-moving, which I think is the learnings we took. Is when you live in Asia, the pace at which the Western world works feels like super slow to you, and so that kind of leads you to push the organization, the central organization, to move faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you came back to Europe, and just tell the audience a little bit about how your roles are different. How your roles are different, obviously.
Right. So I run the Lodging Partner Services Group, which is basically the team that works with hotel partners to put the supply on the shelf of our large portfolio of brands, which includes Expedia, Hotels.com, Travelocity, Orbitz, What If, Hotwire, and a few others.
Right, so you're global.
So global, yes.
Yeah. So if Cyril is on the selling side towards our partners and suppliers, I'm on the selling side towards our customers, whether it's leisure or corporate, particularly for Hotels.com and Ian, which is one of the, what we call one of the 5 platforms within the Expedia Inc. group. So we have Hotels and Ian, then we have brand Expedia with Travelocity, Orbitz, etc. additions that sell multi-line of business, everything under the sun, really. Agencia, corporate travel, now HomeAway since a little while, and of course, Trivago through majority ownership, but they operate fairly independently, as we know, and we heard.
So Expedia, obviously a business of scale. You know, one of the challenges last year was kind of merging all the acquisitions and putting some of the, like Travelocity, Orbitz, on this single platform, and now that's been achieved. What kind of benefits has that had for you?
I'll probably throw that over to you because I've been sitting more and trying to run the 2 businesses that have not been that active in the particular integration. Mm-hmm. I do see benefits, if I start anyway, Cyril. I do see benefits now that it's done in terms of the collaboration that we do across the company. We compete quite fiercely, right? We're a portfolio company, but we also collaborate. We try to be, boxing at each other with pretty soft gloves, if you want. But so when the integrations, and they've taken a lot of time and effort, when they're done, we can sort of get back to focus on really working together. And all these selling divisions, if you want, are obviously working really closely with the supply team. So a lot of these parts were a little bit distracted for a while, but now we're back at it. So.
Yeah, I think we get a lot of benefits from using our platform, leveraging the investments we make in our platforms. We invest about $1 billion in technology in our platforms every year. And that investment, the more you can leverage it across more brands and more customer segments, the more you get a higher return on your investment. So adding Travelocity was a great success. Then adding Orbitz, adding What If, eBookers, et cetera, is part of that strategy to leverage our technology investment and get the maximum return for it. Touch different segments. What we found is that these brands had their niche of customers that were loyal to them, and basically we provide these customers with a better consumer experience because the technology is better, and that translates into more profitable operations for these brands and more bookings for our hotel partners. So it's kind of a virtuous cycle.
And then to showcase that, you announced the Marriott Vacations. Is there going to be more?
Yeah, so that's kind of the second
level?
step of the strategy of moving from being a,
It was
as
like
Dara
Expedia
says,
working with Marriott.
right?
Different
It's
way.
surprising, isn't it? Yeah, moving from a web company to a platform company, and that's really something that we've shifted to over the last year or so. And the idea is pretty simple. We've proven that we can take the platform from our brand and power other brands very effectively on the OTA space. And now the idea is to take that same platform and leverage it for hotel partners and allow them to access also all the benefits of that technology that is constantly getting improved, enhanced through thousands and thousands of tests that we run every day. And the thinking is quite simple, is if we are as a company increasing or improving the customer experience, regardless of where the customer wants to book, be it on Expedia, on Hotels.com, or on Brand.com, because we know customers, some of them want to book on an OTA, some of them want to book on Brand.com. If we can enhance that experience, remove the friction, regardless of where the customer wants to book, we essentially create a more favorable ecosystem for travel that has customers, regardless of where they want to interact with the travel product, have a good experience, and then it translates into more disposable income spent on travel. So it should be good for the industry, and if we power all these parts of the ecosystem, we'll get a share of the revenue, so it should be good for Expedia too.
So that is a bit of a shift in thinking, though, correct? I mean, so from being a distribution company to being a platform company, and now we're hearing the word direct a little more. So what exactly can you do for hotels? Now, hotels themselves, as we all know, they're getting a little bit squeezed from private accommodation, concerned about private accommodation as, another new competitor, something to figure out, not just on the legal side, but in terms of demand and how that's going to impact their business. And then the fact that you guys and Booking.com are continuing to grow in double digits. I mean, here you are, 20 years later, and we still have a business that's growing in double digits. So how do you help hotels to achieve what they're looking for, which is obviously more direct, more that relationship with the customer, and then continuing to be what Expedia is all about, which is this big marketplace?
Yeah. I'll take a small crack first. In some ways, our position hasn't changed, although on the surface, and when we talk about these things and make them concrete, it does feel like a lot of change. But we're an acquisition machine, right? A lead generator. We just happen to have built up strong brands to be able to do that, right? And that was the premise from the beginning in the hotel industry, and still very true. Unbelievably fragmented. How do you reach out? How do you find that needle in the haystack customer somewhere on the other side of the globe? It's just very, very tough, and that really hasn't changed, even with some of the scale and synergies.
We spend a lot of money for that, too.
We spend a lot of money on marketing, and we spend a lot of money on technology, and both of those, easily surpasses and continues to accumulate, and in a way digress further away from at least that individual property. So I think, in that sense, it hasn't changed. And I think we're just taking it in a way to the next step of saying, hey, we are here to provide customers. We had that same role yesterday. Now we're coming up with some new interesting ideas to do it. And so I'm sure you can talk to some of the concrete ideas of how we envision powering them.
Yeah, I think if you look at, and there are individual hotels, there's small groups of hotels, there are medium-sized brands, and then there are big brands, and there's a continuum of needs if you want. But if you look at what we're doing now, hotels have, along the funnel, they have needs, for instance, for pricing. They need data to price correctly. we provide, through a tool that we just launched called Ref Plus, we provide them access with competitive data, with market demand, et cetera, so that they can do their pricing. And it could be a chain, it could be an individual hotel. They can use the data that we provide and that a small hotel would not have access to optimize their pricing and maximize their RevPAR. Then what they need is, after they've done the pricing, they need to attract consumers to their website. Now they can work on our marketplace, but they can also want to attract consumers on their website. We launched a product called Travel Ads Direct, which allows them to basically spend their marketing money to attract consumers from Expedia and Hotels.com directly to their website, which was unthinkable a few years ago. We would never have thought about that, right? But now, since we're thinking, let's facilitate the customer's journey, we're doing this. So hotels can actually use our platform to attract customers to their website. And then the next step is powering their website to make it more effective and increase their conversion. We're doing this with Marriott. You mentioned it on the Vacation Pass, and Vacations by Marriott has grown tremendously since it launched in 1 quarter. They surpassed all their objectives. All ever results from Marriott Vacations have been completely exploded, if you want, with our new platform. So Marriott is super happy. We're very happy. And now the next step is to move to the standalone area, where we want to leverage our platform to build a standalone platform that allows also hotels to use our technology to better convert the demand that they have on their website. Then after that, you get to the guest experience. We've invested in a company called Alice, where we have a minority share, which optimizes hotel operations through technology and allows hotels to focus their energy and their capacity on providing great consumer service. So that's great. We also allow hotels to sign up more loyalty members if they want to. We did that test with Red Lion that's been highly publicized, where we enroll a lot of loyalty members for Red Lion, which is something, again, that was unthinkable a few years ago. And then we provide real-time feedback, which is a great tool also to increase the customer satisfaction by treating problems that arise on property before customers write a review later on. So all these pieces of technology that we're releasing to the market are really designed to help hotels, be it an individual hotel or a small chain or a big chain, to optimize not only their performance in Expedia, but also on all their operations.
So, but despite all these efforts, right, you're still getting pushback from some of the chains, and that's never probably going to end, and they desire to have 100% distribution direct, and you'll always hear that mantra from hotels. But, so the loyalty rates is the one thing that I guess all the chains are doing now. It's more of a US thing, I would say, than Europe, but maybe you could answer that question for me. But in terms of whether or not, A, it's going to shift share, I think that hasn't been proven yet, although the hotels are saying they're seeing some shift. B, is that going to put some pressure on margin? And, you know, C, not margin for you or margin for them? So I guess that's a two-part question. What's your opinion? I know you have some.
I really don't know what you're talking about. Really have no idea. I've been in the press many, many times about that topic over the last 12 months. I'd say it's a topic that is maturing. I think some chains, as you can see, are first of all testing or in process of testing, giving OTA customers access to these loyalty rates in exchange for signing up loyalty program members. So I think that's one way to address the topic. Some chains are reducing the discounts that are provided on these loyalty rates because it's becoming very expensive for the owners. Some chains are making less mandatory, more opportunistic.
So you're seeing them already pulling back.
So I think you know, it's evolving. It's an evolving
And have you
topic.
felt any impact?
We haven't felt any impact. We read the press like you do, and it looks like the number of people who have signed up to loyalty programs has increased dramatically. Now, I just don't know if it's, you know, one brand has 100% of the customer, or if 100 customers are shared across 100 brands and they have 100 cards. That's the question mark.
Okay.
I mean, I think the other point is, and we all know this, everyone who sells something would love to not have to distribute and pay distribution costs, right? We live the same, just a level above the hotels if you want, with Google. right? So I would love to say, oh, tomorrow we're going to stop spending on Google. But as long as Google provides a very liquid, rich marketplace for us to get demand, and we can be really, really good at executing that marketplace, many times working super closely to Google, and nowadays not just with account management, but with product and engineers, the better off, I would say, the customer is. And if we provide the customer with a good experience, and we're in that value chain, then it makes sense, right? But of course, there's an ideal state, and then there's reality, and you need to try to win, within your sort of sphere of influence. And then, we try things, Chains try things, Google try things, and I think some things fail, some things, go on.
Symbiotic relationship.
It's a very dynamic place, right? At the end of the day, and what e-commerce and internet and mobile obviously has brought is just, how do you place the right value on the signal or on the intent? The good thing with travel is that we have a very, very rich sort of stream of intent before purchase. It's very different than buying groceries. People get inspired, they look for inspiration, they shop, they search, they shop, they search.
It's a long window.
They pause, they come back, and then they buy. So there's an unbelievable richness.
Lorraine,
Can
we have
mic,
a question.
Please? Can we have a mic? I think it has your sound.
I lost it, I think.
Okay. No one lost his sound. Someone could bring a mic.
Can we take a question real quick?
Sure.
Mic, please. Microphone up here, please.
Yeah.
Should I give him this mic?
Thank you.
Maybe I'll ask
and we
one
can take the
question
question
while the
meanwhile.
microphone
Cyril
comes.
can answer.
I think I'm not on either. Oh, yeah, I'm on. Yeah.
I've got a bit of an EAN-specific question. There's a lot of B2B players out there who book a lot of business for EAN, obviously, today, and I'm based in the Middle East myself. You released Voyager, I think it's called, correct me if I'm wrong, recently. Can you explain a bit?
It was working, yeah.
Oops. At least we don't have a fire drill.
Let me try.
We're back. Can you explain a bit about the mindset of, for people who now through XML book a lot through EAN, what was sort of the mindset, the reasoning to launch something where you can then manually manage a booking afterwards, like outside of your system again? Like, I couldn't, talking to Expedia guys in Dubai, I couldn't get the right answer.
Okay. So I think I understand your question, and it's around Voyager sales. So it's one of the, so EAN is our B2B distribution division, and we got 3 different products. Really, one is an API product, and we have a template product based on hotels.com, and then we have what we call Voyager for sales. So it's really a call center, sort of offline retail type of product. And the reason we developed that in the first place was to enable our retail partners and their agent networks to do much more of the service themselves. So we didn't have to ping through the chain all the way back up to us, a bunch of questions and then down again. So we empower them with a much better tool. It's a good example of technology investment again. Now we have started to roll this out also on the sales side. So these agents can do sales fulfillment, take care of that whole process directly in that tool. They don't necessarily have to use the other tools or product platforms from EAN. So I'm not 100% sure if that answers your question. Would love to follow up afterwards and see if there's anything we can help with.
Lorraine, we have another question from the floor.
Hi, I'm Andy from Trusted House Sitters. We're helping people find someone to look after their home and pets for free when they travel in exchange for a place to stay. In short, basically, most travel companies want to make travel easier and more affordable. And one of the main reasons that people don't travel is because they have pet care, they can't find pet care and so forth. So while a lot of you guys are talking about, for example, taking share from other hotel groups, vacation rentals, things like that, how much focus do you think the industry needs to put on actually helping more of their new and existing customers travel more often and growing that pie of people that just travel or want to travel more? So, for example, 2/3 of the Western world own a pet and 1 in 4 of them never travel. That's a big market.
So are you building new demand? I'd like to know the answer to that question too. Like, are you shifting? I mean, is it shifting, or is it a new demand happening, and it's
Is it a
coming
question about
directly
pet
to
care,
you?
or is it about building new
I think the particular question, but maybe it is an example of or representation of how do you build new categories or demand, satisfied demand that we don't really take care of today. So yes, we look for new demand all the time, and yes, there's a lot of new demand, coming into the market. We all know the story, emerging markets, hundreds of millions of potential travelers. As soon as people have their basic needs fulfilled, whether it's a car or an apartment, etc., one of the first things they want to do is travel. So, the biggest, I think, growth sector in terms of new demand for us is simply getting more global or local, as it were. Right? So we're on a 20-year path journey so far, and we're going to continue for the next 20 years. There's a lot to do. We've done quite a bit, but that is by far the biggest one. I think in terms of this particular question, it's got some great stats there. I didn't realize necessarily how big this is, although I did get a pet only 2 months ago, and we've already come into this, oh my God, how we're now going to travel as much as we did during the summer. So it is a real question. I think we have tried to solve it in some of the content that we get from hotels in terms of where can you actually bring your pet. But in terms of an assisted service on the side, like I think what you provide, we haven't connected that. Could be a very, very good idea.
Interesting idea.
It is as big as you say.
Hey, Lorraine, I want to ask a question on a different topic. Let's say you're having an executive team meeting for Expedia, and you're talking about competition. Who do you talk about more? Booking.com, Airbnb, or Ctrip?
If it was only these three.
You can add someone else in.
We talk about Google, we talk about Facebook, we talk about Apple, we talk about TripAdvisor, we talk about brand.com, we talk about corporate travel players, we talk about wholesalers, we talk about tour operators. It's a big market out there. So,
But not small local OTAs.
Small local OTAs, it's a slightly different topic. The interesting thing about small local OTAs is the business model we've seen is a business model that we've seen working, is a business model that we haven't been able to replicate. It's a kind of heavily private equity funded, high marketing spend, usually using EN supply, actually, to build relevancy in a market and grow share, and then putting themselves up for sale to one of the global players. And it's really interesting because we've seen this in India, we're seeing this in Indonesia, we've seen this in Brazil, we are seeing this in Africa also now. There's a bunch of places where local players are using the same formula. And it's not something that typically at Expedia, because we are kind of investing by increment, if you want, and we want to see signal that it works before we put a ton of money on the table. We haven't been able to replicate that formula, but it's certainly something we look at. Because these things will continue to pop up.
Well, I think so. In your first quarter, international gross bookings was 36%. But what would you like that to be? I mean, it's not near the 50% that I think Expedia wanted it to be 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we bought a few companies in the U.S.
Yes,
That's
I got
the
it.
thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
Right, I do.
So the U.S. got bigger.
I know.
Listen, I think we're disproportionately investing in international. Like, I'll just give you in my team, the market management team and the global supply team, we have about 4,000 people, and every time we add a headcount in the US, we add 2 headcount in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. So it's like disproportionately investing in building other markets. On the payment side also, we have a big payments team that is taking priority by priority, country by country, and unlocking local payments that are extremely relevant to generating new demand that you were talking about. It's hard to get relevant locally for all the payment methods around the world, but it's definitely something that we have on our agenda. And on the brand side, I'll let Johan talk about it.
I'd say we have a couple of principles. Regardless of what the number is, 36 or 15 or 120 to start with, we say better is better. So we get that number higher tomorrow or within short time frame, then we're good, because then we know we're on a path. But we don't necessarily set that 3-year target and say, hey, it's going to be 48 instead. We just don't think that that's how the world acts today or reacts. We are really, really running on agile fuel. Right? It's so much about quick reactions. Of course, you have to have a couple of visions or broader avenues outlined, but it's about constant just testing and learning and getting better at it. And the second point I would add is, if you think about Expedia Inc., we're truly a portfolio company, right? We're almost like a well, not a PE in the sense that we're not a financial investor, we're truly in this industry, but we cut across so many of these travel signals that I was going to talk about before, that invariably you will have some that are performing phenomenally at the time, and some others that are going through a transition or maybe even struggling, or where we spend a lot of money right now to invest in a new market or tech. The point is, over time, 5, 8, 10 years, if you can run those kind of percentages, it's a phenomenal compounding effect. And I think that's the strategic game that we play as a corporation.
So quickly on HomeAway, I just want to add, you're adding all this content, right? Eventually it will be instant bookable, millions and millions of properties. I mean, you tell me how many. How is it going to impact the hotel marketplace on Expedia? I mean, big time, right?
Well, which is time's up. It's a lot about the way we integrate the vacation rental inventory on Expedia and Hotels.com and our other brands. And we're just testing and learning now. We just put about 40,000 HomeAway properties on the Expedia brand website. And we're really testing and learning the display and how the consumers react to that massive increment of property listings, if you want, that comes into the search results. There's a lot of work we need to do also on explaining how a vacation rental is different to a consumer versus a hotel versus different property types. So it's just a journey that we're going through, and I would say there is huge value in integrating the HomeAway supply on Expedia and Hotels.com, but there's also huge value in building HomeAway as a website and as a brand, because that's a consumer segment that is very identified, and there's a competitor that we want to go after.
Okay. So just real quickly, I just want you to choose between these two. I promise this will be real quick. Most notable, Ctrip or Airbnb?
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Okay. Fastest growth, Asia or Latin America?
Asia.
Asia, yeah.
Greatest potential, chatbots or voice?
Voice.
Voice.
You guys agree on everything.
Goodness.
Favorite phrase?
We tried exactly the same time?
Yes, let's do this one. Favorite phrase, book, direct, and save, or the obvious choice?
The obvious choice.
Okay, you might disagree on this
He
one.
doesn't have a say in that one.
Best place to grow up, Sweden or France?
I don't know, I haven't tested the other one.
It's got to be France. I mean, come on.
Certainly.
All the Swedish people go outside Sweden when they grow up, so.
My question is this, Cyril, do you have a summer house in France that you go back to? No. Do I have one in Sweden? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Fair enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are
All Swedes have
and
summer.
Cyril Ranque.